Hello, gun lobby.
Hello.
I'm plagiarizing that line, actually, because it came from a good friend of mine, the late Neil Knox. Neil was a former vice president of the NRA and founded the Firearms Coalition, which his sons Chris and Jeff continue to use to defend our rights. But of course, what he was lampooning was the way the media refers to the Second Amendment advocates as the gun lobby, as though we are the employees of gun makers, or perhaps, as I often say, the disembodied merchants of death. But of course, we all know exactly the opposite is true. We are the grassroots. They employ the highly paid lobbyists. They have to, of course, because creating a police state is not necessarily a popular thing to do. But in years past, GRNC beat back some of the preeminent lobbyists in the state, particularly Parker, Poe, Adams, and Bernstein, which was hired by North Carolinians Against Gun Violence, who could pay them $60,000 because, of course, it was then run by the wife of Congressman David Price, who could extort money from limousine liberals and even Andrew McKelvey, the entrepreneur behind Monster.com. But we beat him. Do you know why? You. You incite fear in politicians. They fear losing votes, money, and power. They fear you because you are serious people on serious business and you will not stand for attacks on your rights. And they fear what they fear, or rather we continue to generate that fear in the interest of protecting the Second Amendment. In fact, our legal director a while back came up with an organizational motto that even I have been reluctant to adopt. And that was, kneecapping politicians since 1994. Present company accepted to Representatives Pittman and Cleveland.
So you're talking about politicians.
And that's exactly right. We are talking about politicians, not legislators. And later we will discuss the difference between those two. You are, in fact, what Patrick Buchanan once described as the peasants with pitchforks. And it is that fear which enabled GRNC to kill a mandatory gun storage bill a few years back, which even co-sponsors of the bill voted against. After they lamented to their sponsor, quote, "Do you know how many gun owners I have in my district?" And they did that because they were receiving hundreds of emails, hundreds of calls, hundreds of constituent contacts. And by the way, that was many years ago when we were a fraction of the size we are now. Can you imagine what we generate now when you guys respond to one of our alerts? Do you know what these people are getting? It's quite possible that that fear caused both chamber leaders to do an about-face on House Bill 937. One leader this year told me he wasn't going to move bills unless the other chamber did it first. And yeah, probably a lot of you recognize who I'm talking about, but we won't use names. But to quote the late Senator Everett Dirksen, when he felt the heat, he saw the light. And now we have House Bill 937. Last year, the other leader refused to move restaurant carry, despite our rather vociferous insistence that he do so. This year, he not only moved the bill, but he improved on it. Why? Because you, the peasants with pitchforks, your torches burning brightly, stood at the gates of that castle, daring him not to move these bills. If I've learned one thing over 19 years of political action, it's that generating fear isn't easy. Generally speaking, one person can't do it, nor even a few. What it takes is organization. Because organization shows them a force capable of defeating them, of depriving them of what they like most: votes, money, and power. Let me tell you something that our legislative team hears on a daily basis, and I'm sure Jeff will bear this out. You know, I'd rather get one visit or one phone call or one well-written letter from a constituent than 1,000 emails. Well, yeah, that's true, because he really doesn't want to hear from you at all. But then they'll say, I just got 500 emails from all over the state. I'd rather hear just from my constituents. Well, those politicians are telling the truth. In fact, they'd rather hear from nobody so that they can sell you out without you knowing. But what you're really hearing is fear. Because a huge volume of emails and phone calls implies organization, and organization implies the ability to unseat them. Organization, however, is not easily built. As I told 600 plus people who attended our February Freedom Rally, how many of you guys were at the Freedom Rally? Yeah, thank you. Applause to you guys. By the way, during that Freedom Rally, the chants of "we will not compromise" literally rung off the windows of the legislators in the Legislative Office building. They echoed. It was wonderful. But as I told those people in February, we have spent 19 years preparing for just this moment. Building support, building members, building email alert networks, building money, and yes, building strength. The GRNC Political Victory Fund is how we throw politicians out when they don't do their job. It's how we elect pro-gun politicians. We are prohibited by law from using organizational money to influence in elections, so I strongly encourage you to kick in even if you are a member of the organization, because this is how we elect pro-gun candidates. We need this money, so please give us a hand. We have volunteers who've been with us for decades and others for weeks, and hundreds who distribute alerts and sign up members at gun shows, and who show up just like this morning to repel the Bloomberg political machine from North Carolina. So my message to you is that you, what Neil used to call the gun lobby, you are the grassroots. You are the soul of this country, and with organization, you can be victorious. Thank you.